Hello folks, let's clarify something. What exactly is a fee-based advisor? We'll get into that in the next video. Hey folks, welcome to Wealth and Whiskey, where every conversation has proven to be aged and unfiltered. So I'm Roger Kiger. I've been a financial advisor for about 30 years, helping people build wealth and protect their legacies. This channel is about showing you behind the scenes a little bit and discussing some things that maybe every investment advisor doesn't want you to know. So today we're going to continue our discussion about different types of financial advisors, and hopefully today I won't get as many angry emails from advisors like I did after the last video. So to recap, in the previous video, we were discussing 4 potential types of financial advisors. In the last video, we discussed the first 2, which were insurance-based financial advisors and commission-based financial advisors that require either an insurance license or what we call the Series 6 or Series 7 license to sell a commission-based investment. So we covered that in the last video. Today we're going to cover the third, what I'm going to call the third type of financial advisor, which is a fee-based financial advisor. What does that mean, right? So very simply, it's a different license yet again that we're required to have. It says we can open an account and manage it for you as a consumer and charge a fee, an ongoing fee for that account. Well, why would you want to do that, right? When I can pay a commission up front and be done with it. So we talked about the commission piece again in a previous video, but the fee piece of it is a lower fee based on the value of the account, right? So, and you hear these commercials all the time that say, hey, we do better when you do better. And there's some truth to that, because the more the account grows, the higher the fee is that the fee-based advisor can make. And it's a small fee. Generally, it's between, 1% and 1.5%. It's probably the industry average. It gets a little cheaper the higher the account value, but on average, let's call it a 1% average fee. And that would be 1% of the account value per year. So if it's a $100,000 account, it's $1,000 a year, which, yeah, it's $1,000 is a lot of money, but relative to the account value, it's not that much if the advisor is providing value, right? So what does that mean, providing value? Well, this is what you got to find out. Ask the questions. Again, you'll see in all these videos, I'm a real strong advocate of saying, just ask the questions. There's nothing that you shouldn't feel comfortable asking a potential financial advisor if they're about to help you control your financial well-being. It's a big decision. Don't be uncomfortable asking these questions. So what do you get for the fee is the question, right? So, and the value proposition can be a couple things. It can be, hey, we outperform the S&P index, or we do better than we think you can do on your own. Or the answer could be, we prevent you from making poor decisions. There's a lot of truth to that, right? Keeping people invested or not investing in something that's crazy. And we've got so many stories about investing. I'm not saying crypto is a bad investment. I'm saying doing it on the wrong platform, doing it on the wrong platform can be devastating. If we can help prevent those decisions, maybe that is worth paying the fee for the asset management, right? Maybe the value a consumer gets is we can give you similar performance that you would get on your own with a whole lot less risk. Pretty good value proposition. Or maybe an investment advisor would provide financial planning solutions on top of just the asset management. So those are all the things that really you should be asking about a fee-based financial advisor. I do believe that's the most efficient type of account for a consumer, because the advisor is paid on an ongoing basis, which means they're paid to service the account, look at the account, rebalance the account, look at the investments on an ongoing basis. They didn't get a commission up front to sell you one investment and hope it works for the next 5 years, right? And a fee-based account, if something's not working, that advisor should be changing those investments. That's what they're paid for. They just need to do what they get paid to do. So if I had to say there's a positive to that, yeah, the more the account grows, the better the advisor does, the better the client does. That's okay as long as it's within the client's risk tolerance. Because if somebody says, I don't want to take any risk, maybe it doesn't make sense to incent the advisor to take a whole lot of risk. So those things need to be discussed. But generally speaking, I'm an advocate of the accounts where the advisor does better when the client does better, because you're all on the same page. You're all compensated similarly, even though the advisor is not going to make as much as the client, but they are incented to do the right thing for you. So what's the downside to that? So maybe I'll get a little hate mail from some other advisors, but the downside can be if an advisor handles so many accounts that they never look at yours specifically. Because, I mean, let's be honest, advisors can make a lot of money just bringing in as many accounts as possible, charging that ongoing fee, and adding to the bottom line by just adding one more account. The way they do that is they have an allocation that they give to everybody. They don't customize it. And they can just add one more account, put it in the bucket with the rest, and then go find another account, which means their income on an ongoing basis only goes up because they're paid to just add accounts, right? You know, it's not bad if they're really good at picking the investments, but it doesn't take into consideration what your tax consequences might be, what your risk allocation, your risk tolerance. If they're buying the same investment for everybody, it means they don't really care how aggressive or conservative you are, right? So those are the kinds of things you got to talk through. Ask them how many accounts they service, because you want somebody that's going to pay attention to you as a client, not just be interested in adding another account. This is one of the challenges I see with some firms that you see online that say, we do better when you do better. Yeah, they do a lot better because they're just adding another account, and they don't really care what happens after that because they've dumped you in some allocation. And I literally saw another firm that said, hey, we're going to give you an allocation and perform as well as the S&P 500. They actually bought the S&P 500, and they put all 500 stocks in an account and said, we'll do just as well as the S&P 500. It's because they owned all 500 stocks. Maybe that's not the best way to do that. So again, ask the questions, understand what makes them different, why are they the right firm for you, and what are you going to get out of hiring them to do the asset management for you on an ongoing basis. So those are the three types of asset managers, right? We've covered the insurance, we've covered the commission, which are usually banks and wirehouses or big brokerage firms. And then we've covered the RIA channel, which is a fee-based. So at a higher level on the fee-based accounts, it's becoming more popular. It's probably the fastest growing segment of our industry because it frankly just makes more sense for advisors and for clients. Because the advisors aren't paid to just go sell something. They're paid to keep the clients, not just find a new client. All right, so retention is kind of a big deal. But as that, we call it RIA side of it, or the fee-based side. And RIA stands for Registered Investment Advisory, or Registered Investment Advisor or Advisory Firm. And that is yet again another type of license. But we're seeing some banks and brokerage firms or wirehouses start to do those fee-based accounts. So the question is, if they're doing a fee-based account, make sure they are RIA fee-based accounts, not commission-based fee-based accounts. I worked for a firm previously that said, oh yeah, we do fee-based accounts. They would charge you a fee and get a commission. That doesn't work. Don't ever do that. Make sure that they are registered investment advisors when they're doing a fee-based account. That's really important. So again, high level, 3 types: investment, commission, fee. So happy to answer any questions. Feel free to just ask those in the comments and we'll try to get a response back out to you pretty quickly. And then as we wrap up here, the 4th channel is the wealth management versus the asset management. And that's probably enough to justify a whole video for that, because I truly believe that that is the most important part of our industry. We figured out how to pick an asset manager, right? Whether it's insurance or commission or fee. But the wealth managers do all of those, plus they take into consideration all of the financial planning aspects of wealth management. So they look at everything that's going to impact the type of investment they're picking for you. It doesn't mean they do a poor job at the asset management. It means they do the same job at the asset management, but have to look at all of the other aspects of taxation, performance, estate planning, insurance planning. And the best license to cover that, I think, is a certified financial planner. That's the CFP designation, which, by the way, I think is the hardest license to get. I think it's the license that doesn't necessarily pay an advisor any more to have that. They don't necessarily make more money. They have to work a little harder because it's so much more comprehensive. And the downside for the advisors that have the CFP designation is it is yet another license that has yet another form of accountability, continuing education, and scrutiny from another outside compliance firm. So the CFP on the wealth management side, I think is probably the best because it covers everything we've talked about. So, and from a wealth management perspective, and this is what I do, and I would hope everybody does this, I have all the licenses, so if there's a specific need for one of those other products, yeah, we can do that. But the core base of our business, the core positions for most clients that they should have is a fee-based account, because you can change it any time without cost. You can modify the allocation, whether it's aggressive or conservative. You can change the specific investments, and the advisor can do that for you without them making some other commission, right? They're paid to do that on an ongoing basis, which means they'll just handle it. So there's a lot to unwrap there. We'll get into that in the next video, which compares asset management with wealth management. So we'll talk through those in the following video. So today, I hope that was helpful to unwrap a little bit about the fee-based side of the investment management profession, right? So there's a lot to talk about. So again, not to be repetitive, but please ask these questions. Ask them to us, ask them to your advisor. And if they want to send me an email, it's okay. I've gotten a few of them. And that's just fine. That's part of why we call this unfiltered. I'm the age part. Now we'll get through the unfiltered part. So we'll wrap it up for there today. Remember that financial success isn't easy. It takes time and diligence and patience. So to start your journey, download the Legacy Blueprint below. Be sure to like and share our channel. We want you to subscribe to the Wealth and Whiskey channel so you don't miss any of these conversations. And by all means, ask us whatever questions you have. I'm Roger Kiger. I appreciate your time very much and look forward to seeing you again on future videos. Cheers.